everybody, welcome to this episode of GeekStorm. I'm Sean Hilton, owner of Comics Cube, founder of the Kokomo Con, and a great big geek. I am joined today by my very good friend, Michael Allen Harrison, who is all things to all people. Welcome back.
All right.
Mike, I've been gone for a while. What have I missed, buddy? What's
nothing,
been going on?
Nothing.
Holidays, I own a retail shop. It keeps me a little
I know, you get busy.
A little busy.
You get busy.
So, did I miss any cool? I mean, we had Lauren come on and do some guest stuff. We had Josh King come on and do some guest stuff. I had Mike Dukes. So, how all did they handle the seat?
Everybody did great. Everybody did great. Lauren and Mike did it 1 week by themselves, and then myself and Josh last week. I'm sure you saw. So
I don't watch when I'm on it. I'm sure as hell not watching when somebody else.
You got to watch last week's. Last week's was good. We had some good, some good dialogue between us and people behind the camera, and
people behind the camera had attitude.
Well, yeah, you really couldn't tell what they were saying, but would by how we reacted to what their mumblings were. You could tell, kind of what was going on.
What threw up the foul call?
Oh, we got into Star Wars a lot and about The Last Jedi and how people felt about it and everything. So that's all.
I'm sorry I missed that.
Well, maybe you don't have to miss it because it's on the World Wide Web. You can check it out anytime you want at the YouTubes.
Back there and say Star Wars.
No, don't do that. Gotcha. Don't do that.
Tell you what, man, that new Star Wars film was awesome. That saved my Christmas. The whole holiday season was made better by the...
He's saying something. I can't hear it, but I'm sure it's vitriol just coming this way.
Luckily for me, they invented a new character called Rose. Saved the whole franchise was saved by one character.
He's upset about Akbar. He thinks Akbar's off-screen death and subsequent.
I didn't even know that was Akbar until they said it.
Yeah, I didn't know Akbar was there.
Some Mon Calamari guy.
Right. Oh, that's racist. So. I don't know why.
They all look like me.
Ask him, and also he's so upset about Akbar. Ask him what he had for dinner that night.
Sushi?
Yes, he went and had sushi.
That is great. Well, it is poised. This new Star Wars film is poised to. It is now the number 2 film domestically in the United States of America, surpassing Wonder Woman. It's not, unfortunately, going to come probably even within striking distance of Beauty and the Beast. Beauty and the Beast had some crazy legs, started very early in the year, so did very well. But Star Wars is doing well for itself at the box office, regardless of the fan outrage and petitions.
I went this last week for my second viewing. It was a Tuesday afternoon at 2:30 in the afternoon, and it was a packed theater.
Yeah, we went the day after Christmas at about 8 o'clock, and it was, I won't say it was packed, but it was full. It was it was healthy.
Yeah.
Any other movie that would have had this audience in it on that day would have been thrilled. So, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was really pretty good overall. So
me too.
I really don't understand. The only thing I think of, and not to retread whatever you guys talked about last week, is that people's personal feelings have become involved, and they don't want to let storytellers tell stories anymore unless it is a story that they've already cooked up in their own minds.
Right.
And that's just silly. Luke didn't do what I say he should do when I was playing with my action figures. This is what Luke would have done. Some crazy fangirl chick shows up to your cave after you retired. You've gone into hiding. You've done everything you can to make sure that the fanboys can't find the franchise anymore. You know?
That's right.
You gave it your best. You had a good run. You're like, all right. You even tried to set up like a little camp. It didn't go well. So you're like, you know what? Done. Hey, can I get your autograph? No, I'm sorry.
Does she look like Rey? Because honestly, I might let her in.
Oh, wow.
I've had nothing but these alien nuns for so long,
I thought a Jedi didn't.
He's given up the Jedi ways. He's not using the Force anymore.
Well, yeah, it was just this. Like everybody's like, oh, he didn't act. I'm like, no, he did. If you watch that first film, he did exactly what he should have. What you would have thought. He threw his lightsaber over his shoulder. I'm sorry, that particular piece of equipment isn't exactly great memories for the dude.
Yeah.
When was the last time he saw that piece of equipment?
I don't know. Probably when he got in a fight with somebody that was
lost a hand or something.
Yeah. It was.
So, speaking of losing hands,
which we were.
There was a guy once in a Star Wars movie that had a buddy that lost a hand.
He did?
Yeah, he was wanted in like 12 systems. But that particular actor is now dead.
He is?
The guy who played Walrus Man's buddy.
Alfie somebody. Not Alfie Woodward.
Was it Dr.
Phasma.
Dr. Everson?
Dr. Ever.
Yeah, that guy.
He's dead.
So the ugly guy that was friends with the other ugly guy.
No, we don't know that he was ugly underneath. He could have been a handsome man.
The ugly character who was friends with the ugly character who got his arm cut off.
Yes. Also made an appearance in Rogue One.
Really?
Yeah, both of them did.
Oh yeah, okay, yes, I do remember.
I don't know if there's I wonder if those actors. Do we know if those actors?
I doubt it.
But yeah.
Back to Star Wars, sorry.
Sure.
But nothing to do with this is now just like weird stuff.
Sure.
So Peter Mayhew, who played Chewbacca throughout all the beginning, passed the torch and only did some of the scenes, and rumors very few of the sines.
Like the one, as far as I know.
Force Awakens.
Right.
Now in The Last Jedi, they've got the new guy is credited and whatnot. Now, Peter Mayhew is a big guy. He's got knee problems, and he's a little bit elderly. Besides one scene where he hugs Luke standing up, why is it that we couldn't have had Peter Mayhew back to do this? He did nothing but, one, they didn't even have Wookiee pants. I think every scene was from the waist up, and honestly, it was like him just sitting the entire time.
If you're going to pass the torch, you got to pass the torch, okay? You can't pass it and then say, hey, can I have that back?
You can't be the Leno of Star Wars?
No, you can't do that.
So,
that's mean. Mean-spirited is what that is.
So that's just one of the things that, like, I'm like, well... No. And then we mentioned a beautiful tribute to Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher, but I don't think a single mention of Kenny Baker.
Yeah, which is weird. I don't know why that would be.
It doesn't cost them any extra to put up a frame that says, to those who have passed, and especially Kenny Baker played R2-D2 in all the movies up until till this thing. So, what's a supercut? I'm curious. What is my Star Wars supercut? You're my Star Wars guy.
Sure.
So I assume it's the prequels.
What do you mean by when you say supercut?
They put all of them together. Okay. Everything in order that's come out. I assume it's the three prequels, Phantom up to whatever, Revenge of the Sith or whatever, and then I'm guessing
Rogue One.
4,
5, 6, 7, 8.
No, the New Hope, then the Star Wars Special.
The Star Wars Special.
No, this is the supercut. Don't cheat me. Then I'm getting Empire. Then I'm getting Return of the Jedi. Now, where's the Droids cartoon come in?
It doesn't.
Then the Clone Wars, and then there was some other Clone Wars before the Clone Wars. There was like a USA.
Right.
I need you to get me this information by next week if you can. I need the supercut. Exactly, the two, because those I figure have to come after Return of the Jedi, but before this other stuff.
There's a wiki about the chronological order of new Star Wars canon. I'm sure there's one for old Star Wars canon too, and it's probably millions of pages long. But and you can look. Oddly enough, the very first, if you look at it chronologically, the very first story that takes place in new Star Wars canon is in a book. It's a book of short stories about different alien species, and it's something about a cook in Maz Kanata's kitchen.
Who's Maz Kanata?
Maz Kanata is the little chick with the goggly eyes.
Oh, she's the one that they threw in the gratuitous scene in this latest movie. That was, what was the point of that?
I don't know.
Hey, look, I'm a badass doing cool stuff while talking to you. And I'm like, I don't get that at all. I'm like, either give her a scene or don't.
So that exists. You can look that up anytime you want to.
I can't watch that. That's a book. And
you want somebody to string the scenes together for you?
Yeah, like you did. You did it with Marvel.
I did.
So I'm saying, though, I want to know what the Star Wars version of that is.
Holiday Special's not in there.
It has to be.
No, it isn't. No, nothing has to be anything.
Well, in my supercut, it has to be. So
my name is.
So does the droids in the Ewoks cartoon.
My name is W. Disney. I decide what's what, and I say it's not in there.
They exist, so they exist.
Nope.
Yep.
What else?
A couple other people died. Knock that out.
Rosemary died. 95 years old, I think. 94 years old.
Is.
Huh? Rosemary, Dick Van Dyke Show.
I don't think anybody knows who she is.
Well, like people knew who Dr. Afro was, or whatever that guy's name is.
It's called GeekStorm. It's kind of in the name. They might know who that is. But the 95-year-old chick from Dick Van Dyke.
Dick Van Dyke Show, sure.
Dick Van Dyke at this point is having a hard time remembering who
Sally
she is.
Rogers from the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Cool. I think the animator, the original creator of Bugs Bunny died.
Did he?
Pretty sure.
What's his name? Chuck Jones?
No.
What's his name? Frizz Freeling?
He was 91.
Frizz Freeling?
No.
Bob Saget?
Stan Lee just celebrated his 95th birthday yesterday.
Good for Stan Lee. Rosemary won't be making her 95th.
Wow. All right.
She won't be going to the party.
Okay.
Unless you already had it. Maybe they had it.
So there's a new show on Netflix. It was a 4-part mini documentaries. They're about an hour long, called The Toys That Made Us.
The Toys That Made Us.
Man, I enjoyed the heck out of that. So, The Toys That Made Us, each one follows a toy line.
Yes.
And gives you a very in-depth, from beginning to as much completion as it can be, because some of these aren't completed yet.
It starts
we'll go on.
It starts with Tailspin, and then goes to Invincible, and ends up with AVP.
I think you saw a different one.
Oh. What's it start
It
with?
might have started with Star Wars.
It starts with Star Wars.
It's about an hour long and goes from the very beginning to the very first meeting.
Right.
Before the movie's complete. With Kenner going in and doing some talk, because they'd been turned down by everybody on the planet. Nobody wanted to make these toys. And how they got one of the craziest, best deals ever. Kenner made so much money because of the crazy deal that they got, that it was insane. And Lucas, who always wields all this power, for once was powerless. He'd signed the contract. So it was a done deal, and was stuck with this horrible contract for years. But on the other hand, I think those toys, and this isn't a documentary, now we're doing our thing. Without those toys, I don't believe that you have Star Wars as you have it today. I think that those toys and the way that they helped girls and boys recreate the stories, make their own stories, those toys helped ingrain Star Wars into the consciousness that it was. Because back when it first came out, we went and saw it. You might have saw it 20 times, but that was it.
Right.
There was no VHS tape.
Right.
Your best bet was to go out and get a real can of actual film, or a Super 8 with some cuts. That was it. It wasn't like today where it's going to be on Netflix in 4 months, or it's going to be on, a $9.99 Blu-ray, whatever.
Right.
So those toys helped keep that whole line alive for that amount of time.
And I'd say to go even a step further, just the fact that the timing was off, that they didn't get the toys out for another year and a half after the movie had premiered, helped rekindle and fuel and keep Star Wars in the American consciousness until Empire came out. Because we're talking, I think, 4 years, maybe 3 years before Empire comes out.
I think they were 3 years apart. So, as I recall, it were 3 years apart.
The way they explained it on the show, which was very interesting, very well done documentary, very informative, and I was telling Todd in the back how impressed I was with the access this guy got to all the creators of the various lines, but they like to have the toys up and running, even like today. They want to have them on the shelves when the movie hits, because that's when
before the movie hits.
Yeah, the fire's hot and they want to strike. So these, they didn't even make. Lucas just sat on it and didn't even try to make a deal until the movie was almost ready to release. So they knew they only had a few months till it was released. But it takes, I think they said it takes something 18 months
or something like
to get
that,
a toy from the paper to the kid's hands. So they rushed it. But the deal was cut super late, and it was one of those times where Lucas was kind of handcuffed with
take this deal or I'm not getting the deal.
Yeah, and Kenner, even when they started talks, Kenner's already working on stuff.
Yes.
So as they're moving along, getting closer to closer, where Lucas has to choose somebody, even though nobody else is saying yes, nobody else wants it in on it. When he has to choose a deal, when he has to sign on the dotted line and say, yeah, I'll take a half a nickel or whatever I'll take for it. They've got the thing in their quarter is saying, we've already done all this work, this is ready to go, and nobody else has done anything. Not only are we the only game in town, but if the longer you wait, the less of those half nickels you're going to get in the first place, because it's going to be too late. So it's always been famously reported how Lucas was a genius in asking for the merchandising rights for everything else, but apparently that didn't include the toys. Includes everything else, but not the toys. So
it's about an hour long, just a little under an hour. Very informative. Great looks at some of the stuff. In fact, the original mock-ups, they went and got someone else's toys off the shelf and just put clay on them very haphazardly to just get something of a guide. And the toys that they used were the toys that I was playing with before Star Wars came out. They were called Fisher-Price Adventure People. And they came out in packs of the Wilderness set or the African Safari set or And I loved them. Those were, I mean, and a lot of times those actually interacted with my Star Wars toys because I had so many of them. So it's kind of neat because as they were showing like some of the figures, I'm like, I had that.
Right.
Even underneath all the clay, I'm like,
Right.
I know that figure.
Right.
So that was kind of cool. They did Barbie, He-Man, and G.I. Joe. Barbie was very interesting. I learned that Barbie is based on a German whore.
Well, prostitute.
I didn't know that.
You don't have to.
Whore, prostitute.
Versions.
That I don't even think there's semantics there.
Well, all right.
Those are the same words.
Great.
So that was interesting, and just a flat-out ripoff too.
Sure.
Like not even close to not being a ripoff. That original design.
Yeah,
was,
she went over there, bought 4 or 5, brought them back, and said, "Make me one of these." And they basically made that exact doll. I think they changed the face the first time, and that's
about it.
Yeah.
But it follows the whole line. It's very interesting. The He-Man one might have been the most interesting just for the fact of how much money.
Yeah.
This was the one, a lot of them talk money. You hear numbers. But He-Man, they actually come out and tell you, like at the height, one year we'll say, and I'm throwing the year out there because I don't remember, like 89,
Right.
they made $470 million.
Right.
The next year they made $7 million.
Right.
They lost, it was insane how much money they lost.
I don't think they answered that question well
What
enough for
happened?
me to understand. One of them blamed it on She-Ra and demasculinizing boys, but I don't think that was it.
No, well that was also weird.
Yeah.
You had 2 or 3 people trying to claim they're creators of it. One guy obviously was the creator.
Right.
But that guy was weird.
He was.
He was a little strange.
Boom. Or bomb. What do you say? Bong. Bong. He kept saying bong.
Yeah, it was odd.
Weird.
And then you had the artist going, well, I created him. Well,
Right.
kind of like a Stan Lee, Jack Kirby thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, but it's a toy. I don't know. But it was interesting.
Well, the first guy said, "This is He-Man." He named it.
Yes.
It was a barbarian-like thing.
Yes.
You might have changed its appearance in certain ways, but I would say he created
created
He-Man. And maybe they might share credit. Regardless, it was pretty interesting. And the most interesting part about that is, and they made a very good show of how they did this, was they went from toy to toy with comic to toy and a animated movie. Well, let's change that. Let's make it a animated series.
It was cheap. It was just as expensive.
Yeah, and there were laws about what you could and couldn't advertise, and how much animation you could have in a commercial, and all that stuff. That was really interesting, and how they went basically the opposite. Let's say of Star Wars, Star Wars had the finished product, and let's make toys. Well, they had toys, and now let's make this other stuff to keep the toy line going.
Same thing with G.I. Joe, and that was the last one in the series.
Yeah.
G.I. Joe was also incredibly interesting, and that one I liked because it went from the original like 12-inch G.I. Joe up to the 3.5-inch kind of thing, and some of the stuff they talked about. I think one of the most interesting parts about that was they did the original like 12 or whatever they were, and they decided they had to take like 20% of the decoration off of each figure.
Right.
Because they just didn't have the budget.
Right.
And then one guy's like, nope, here's what we're going to do. We're going to keep it all the same, and we're going to take one figure, and he's going to be our trash figure.
Right.
And he's going to have nothing.
Right.
There's no color. There's nothing on him. He's just this blank, and that's how we'll save all the money. That was Snake Eyes, and they came out and said, and he ended up, the trash figure that we created on purpose ended up outselling like everybody else.
Being the most popular.
So I thought that was great.
Yeah.
And again, it's very interesting. You see behind the scenes stuff. There's some recreations. My only nitpick has nothing to do with the actual information. They kind of start the show, and then a couple minutes in, they do the opening credits, and the opening credits are just god awful bad.
Yeah.
And then you get onto the rest of it, and it's amazing. Everything in this is amazing. They need to cut those horrible credits. They're awful.
Yeah.
So other than that,
I liked it a lot. I recognized, back to G.I. Joe, I recognized a lot of those toys, and I thought it was interesting, and I never even thought about the Vietnam War affecting the sales and how they had to change gears, and that's my era when I grew up. I was born in 68, so Action Team is what I grew up on. It was called G.I. Joe. It said G.I. Joe there, but I had the guy with
G.I. Joe Small,
Right.
and then Action Team.
The guy with the flocked beard and hair, that's the guy that I had. And
I had Bullet
some
Man.
of the vehicles. Did you really?
Yeah.
That was crazy how...
his first superhero thing, action figure. I think
Hopefully they go into Mego. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see an episode on that, all the Mego toys
that'd
and
be
stuff like
great.
that. I remember having one. I had a Mego Human Torch, I think.
I had Mego Star Trek figures.
Did you?
I came in, I think, at the end of Mego. What struck me as odd is this: if you get the Migos, because they have the cloth outfits, they have they're bigger size, they're 8-inch or something like that.
Yeah.
They're much more articulated. They've got amazing, at least the Star Trek ones. they had the phaser and a belt and a communicator, and then we went into Star Wars, which was my childhood, but like zero articulation. These things didn't do anything. No fabric, no cloth. No, they were compared to Amigo. They seemed actually like you'd taken a step back and how low tech they actually are.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Now the rumor is, and we've got a pretty good reliable source, that there's 4 more episodes. They've only got the 4, and we've got 4 more coming. Okay. And the rumor is Transformers will be covered, Lego will be covered, and Turtles. And I don't know what that would leave with the 4th, but my guess again would be Strawberry Shortcake or My Little Pony. I'm definitely My Little Pony is what I would hedge my bets on right now with the popularity, and it having come back, and now we've got Pony Generation Point 2. So some of the stuff that's going on.
Check it out if you haven't seen it yet. Do you any other documentaries you're watching?
No, I watched one about called Hired Guns, which was about
I watched that.
Rock and roll type stuff. And, there was some fun stuff. It wasn't quite as good as is it called The Wreckers? Basically, this is basically part 2.
Oh, I see.
There was another documentary that's not actually about this one that goes through the golden age of rock and roll and how the Beach Boys didn't play any of the instruments on their albums. It was all these session players called the Wreckers. And so this one was called Hired Guns. And it's kind of the same thing where a lot of these aren't necessarily on the records per se, but it's like when Randy Rhoads died, if you're an Ozzy fan, that was like at the beginning of a tour. They had to replace him, and so this is what happens. And this guy came on, or that guy came on. And
I like one guy had a quote at the very beginning of the documentary, and it was a movie, not a series. But he said there are probably about 20 different guys that have played on pretty much every record you've ever heard. Now that's a gross exaggeration, but he's saying once you get a reputation as one of these hired guns, as somebody who's really good, you can come in, you can pick up the music, and you can go. You fit in. You don't make waves. You don't cause problems for the other band members. You're just there to work. Once you get that reputation, then you're on a list and you get called, and you get called for a lot of stuff. You work a lot.
You will never be the face on MTV or whatever. Nobody's ever going to know who you are. The paychecks will always know the address to come to for your royalties. The guy from Toto, I had no clue. I mean, I know Toto from Africa and Roseanne.
Sure.
You take out those two, and honestly, Roseanne's a bit of a stretch, I think, for most people. But you take out those two, I can't tell you. But like the lead guitarist from Africa is like, oh yeah, by the way, I played like all of the guitar on Michael Jackson's Beat It album.
Wow.
He's like, all of it.
Yeah, I saw that.
I get paid for that. And so it was really interesting to see all that kind of stuff and crossover. I enjoyed that quite a bit.
Yeah, that was good. I'm starting to watch, there's one called Wormwood. Have you seen that?
I've seen it, but I have not watched it yet.
Have you seen the trailer?
No.
Okay, so it's about, it's true story, but it's a weird mix of documentary and actors portraying it. So it's almost like one of those investigation discovery type of things, but it's with solid actors like Stellan Skarsgård and just various people that we know who they are. But basically, it's set. The origin of it is set in, I'm going to say, the 50s, and it's about the MK Ultra experiments. And supposedly, when the government was doing LSD experiments on civilians, this one guy mysteriously jumps or falls or is pushed or whatever out of a five-story window or whatever, dies. And so the documentary, what I've seen so far, follows the son, who's an adult now, trying to get answers about what happened and stuff like that. But it flashes back and forth between him and documentary style camera work and actual Hollywood actors portraying what's going on too. I only saw the first 10 or 15 minutes, and I started like 11 o'clock at night. I should not have done that, so I will go back and check it out. But it's a weird mix of stuff like that, especially for something we're so used to Netflix documentaries being pretty much straight on.
The last one I actually just went through and watched very quickly was The Ranch. Ashton Kutcher, Sam Elliott, Deborah Winger. Love that show. And the last part 4, left it on a pretty serious cliffhanger, and they have fired Masterson from Hyde from the 70s show, who is a major part of this show. And not only did they fired him, but they fired him right after there's like a big decision cliffhanger that he was entirely responsible for. So I don't know what happens with a part 5. One, this show doesn't have. He is a major, integral part of this show, and without him, it's not balanced.
Right.
I don't know if it's just done and they walk away, or if they try to do something. It's gonna suck for fans because again, it left it like in the middle of a major cliffhanger situation. A very telegraphed, I called it the minute it showed up on screen, like in episode 2 or 3 of the season, that was what was going to be the final scene. So that was a little disappointing, and just it was so easy to like, that's what's going to happen. But man, and he was so good being just that character. So it's a bummer, but if they did it with Kevin Spacey, then there was no way this guy was going to survive 5 rape allegations.
Right.
So,
Right.
So yeah, it was pretty wild. What else you got? What's going on in the world?
Well, did you watch Mindhunter?
No, I'm not watching that.
Oh, that's good. You need to watch that.
There's a lot of stuff. I mean, Netflix at this point, really, I'm like, cable's in trouble.
Yeah.
Because I really don't need you anymore. I don't.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Netflix would definitely cover.
So this is the last
just
show of the
about
year.
everything.
Last show of the year. Who do
Is
you
it?
think?
Oh.
Who do you think is the highest grossing? Unless you'd already know the answer.
I know the answer.
I'm so disappointed in you, America.
I am too. Wow.
The 2 highest grossing actors, meaning the movies they put out this year, made the most money.
Well, it only took one, really. It was really based on one film.
Sure.
So Vin Diesel comes out at number 1
Why?
because of Fast and the Furious 7 or 8.
Whatever it is. Fate of the Furious.
Whatever that movie was
Right.
made him so much. Now, they also point out that Triple X Part 3 came out, but if you look at the box office for that, it was a dismal bomb.
Right.
And he had, I think, another movie. Oh, Groot.
They said they didn't count that.
Did you count that? So if you throw in Groot, he made
Sure.
crazy money.
Right.
But, and then was it Rock number 2?
Number 2 is The Rock, and he was also in that Fate movie, so that kind of cancels them out as far as ranking goes. And then he did Baywatch, which didn't do very well, and rightly so because it was awful.
It flopped just about as bad as.
Steaming pile. I think if you were to take whatever Jumanji's going to make through its
Sure.
next few weeks and add that on there, because to me Jumanji's got to beat Triple X.
Oh, yeah.
Plus you throw in Baywatch. I think then I think it's The Rock, but it's just timing, I
Well,
guess.
that's just going to give Rock
But
some money for next year's.
Vin Diesel.
Thing. Yeah, that's a little weird.
Come on.
It just goes to tell you that it doesn't.
Come on, people.
So that's to me that's weird.
Yeah.
What can you do?
We went to see The World's Greatest Showman. It was
Oh,
pretty good.
You invited me to that.
I did. Well, I kind of invited your wife. I didn't really invite you so much. You were allowed to come along, but
Wow.
it was good. It was good. Here's my only disappointment with it. Hugh Jackman's amazing. Okay.
Sure.
Great performer. One, he's really starting to show his age.
Is he?
Okay, so I can see
That's probably why you need to walk away from Wolverine.
why he might want to walk away from that. But also, it wasn't like I was disappointed that it was all original songs. It wasn't like where they pulled some pop songs and threw them in and stuff like that. That's kind of stuff I enjoy. More like Moulin Rouge when they did that.
Sure.
So all original, but very good songs. I couldn't tell you what the name of any of them were, or I'm not humming any of them
Gotcha.
a few days later. But it was a very enjoyable show.
Yeah, just so because Chris like, hey, you want to go see the show? And I'm like, no, tell him Infinity asked. There's a couple of characters from my youth, historical figures that I followed, and
Right.
like did in P.T. Barnum, Houdini, Al Capone were 3 of the biggies, and I love all those characters.
All
but
criminals.
P.T. Barnum is not a nice guy. He's not a good person
Right.
from what history tells us.
Right.
And yet, from all the ads I saw, this was like him creating a bright, beautiful family of freaks and
Yeah.
giving them all this outlet. And I'm like, I don't think that's reality at all.
No.
You couldn't put a buck into P.T. Barnum's pocket. I don't know that he cared if you
He
froze
did
to death.
turn a little bit against the freak show people, like say midway when he started gaining. He became famous and rich with them, okay? And then he got an opera singer from Europe, brought her over, and once he started to tour with her and her alone, he didn't want those two audiences mixing. He didn't want his freak people in and coming into the parties with the opera chick and making him, look bad or whatever. So they showed that, but they didn't ever really resolve it. Everything was just okay, So it was weird, but it was worth seeing for sure if you're into that type of thing. That's it.
All right.
That's all I got.
We get ready to start talking Oscars here soon.
Right?
Golden Globes, I think, they've had their nomination.
Yes, they have.
So anybody nominated that struck you as interesting? I honestly haven't followed this stuff.
I don't really follow Golden Globes.
Okay.
They are for sale.
But they're still a precursor to the Oscars anymore.
I will watch the broadcast because it's usually a pretty good broadcast. It's usually one of the more free-flowing or unpredictable.
And they produce
broadcasts.
a lot of alcohol at the broadcast.
Oh,
right?
sure.
So
I'm sure they all do.
they have a good time at it.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we got some interesting stuff coming up. So next year, we will take a look and see what happens. Until then, I'm Sean Hilton. This is my friend Michael Allen Harrison.
Where are we?
Catch us down in Geek Street.
What?
Home of Comics Cubed, Kokomo's Toys and Collectibles, who are huge fans of the new Star Wars film.
Oh, they love the Star
Come in
Wars.
and talk to them about it.
Let me tell you something.
If
you want to talk Star Wars, you come in here, you ask for Amber, and you ask for Todd.
And you just say,
They just
hey.
all day long. You can't shut them up about it.
You go, Rose is the greatest character Star
Well, I'm
Wars
not
has ever
saying whether they
created.
like it or whether they don't. I just say they like to talk about it. That's all. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. Bring them some Mon Calamari. Just
Yeah.
for eats, for snacks.
All right. Until then, we'll talk to you later. Be groovy.